From Amateur Radio Newsline Report number 1987, these are the Ham Nation headlines for Wednesday, December 2nd, 2015. As the FCC and hams around the country recuperate from the on-again, off-again outage that left a backlog of license applications and exam sessions, a newly revamped website makes its debut December 10th through a 4-hour transition that begins at 0100 UTC.
The changes were based on information gathered from user feedback over time, and the new website should provide better functionality and improved design and better searchability and navigability. The Commission's IT department had run the site in a beta test version earlier this year to collect input from visitors before the official launch. The new site is also optimized for use on tablets, smartphones, and other mobile devices and offers different browsing options. The FCC says worry not, because while the current agency website will no longer be available after December 10th, files and web pages on transition.fcc.gov will still be accessible until they too are migrated to the new site. The Commission has already upgraded its Consumer Help Center and other interactive areas and says it has been working toward fine-tuning those areas as well. So stay tuned. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Skeeter Nash, N5ASH in Topeka, Kansas.
When it comes to telling stories about radio that were once designed to engage and inspire kids, Mike Adams wrote the book, and the book is called The Radio Boys and Girls, Radio, Telegraph, Telephone, and Wireless Adventures for Juvenile Readers, 1890 to 1945. And Amateur Radio Newsline's Christian Kudnick, K0STH, spoke to Adams recently.
When Mike Adams set out to explore the genre of young adult literature from the 20th century, he was revisiting the same wireless and radio-themed fiction that inspired him to become a broadcaster and a tech hobbyist.
I started with a technical emphasis. I wanted to look at these stories to see if some of the technology described was actually accurate. I just looked at what these kids were doing and what they learned, and I realized that they were learning things that we talk about today. There was a lot of immigration and xenophobia discussion. There was gun violence. There was even a story where the boys had guns on campus. There was a lot of racial issues, and there was bullying, and there was economic inequality at the turn of the 20th century.
Radio Boys and Girls analyzes a collection of over 50 stories. As a professor, Adams examines the values of science, social science, and arts and humanities. You can learn more about this book at radioboysandgirls.org. I'm Christian Kudnick, K0STH for Amateur Radio Newsline.
There's a lot more to Christian's report, and you'll find it in this week's Amateur Radio Newsline. And finally this week, the Christmas season is in full swing, and we have a Christmas story that begins, as all good Christmas stories must, with the wish of a child.
If you take an 80-meter rag chew net, add a bit of holiday cheer, and Pete Thompson, KE5GGY, explains what comes next.
It really goes back to a year where I had a young child at home. I was checked into one of the 3916 nets on Christmas Eve. A number of us with young kids were looking for a way that the kids could talk to Santa. So we kind of pieced together something for a couple of us that one night, and it worked really well. I could be a Santa net relay for a station in Kansas City, and then he could facilitate the contact with Santa for me and my son. So we had kind of a very simple and primitive dress rehearsal, and I think it occurred to a number of us in that year, hey, this really is neat, and it's grown from there. I think we had 5 people at the most that participated the first year, and now in 2015 we're expecting between 250 and 300 kids to talk to Santa. Connecting kids to Santa Claus at Christmas time just makes their Christmas. We get emails every year from parents and grandparents that say, you know, this was the highlight of our holiday season. This brought our family together. That and the fact that we're using the magic radio to do it makes it very rewarding on another level. You know, we know that a number of these kids that have been on the SantaNet have gone on to get their ham radio tickets. It's a win-win. Kids get, the spirit of Christmas through connecting with Santa, through the magic of ham radio. It's a great way for us to end the year on the 3916 nets.
The 80-meter SantaNet meets every night on 3916 kilohertz at 7:30 p.m. U.S. Central Time. For the Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Kent Peterson, KC0DGY.
Again, there is so much more to this story than we could bring you here, so be sure to listen to the full edition of this week's Amateur Radio Newsline report. And that is all from the Amateur Radio Newsline, your independent source for amateur radio news for over 37 years and counting at www.arnewsline.org. With Skeeter Nash, N5ASH, Christian Kudnick, K0STH, Kent Peterson, KC0DGY, and Karen Eve Murray, KD2GUT at the news desk in New York. I'm Don Welbanks, AE5 to W. 73. We'll see you next time here on Ham Nation.